See, I feel like software engineers get a bad rep. There's a stereotype that all of us have to be the McLovin nerd that has no charisma and no ability to talk to people outside of their computer screen, and we spend our lives in basements playing League of Legends, which, although is half true, I don't spend all my time playing League of Legends. Sometimes I go outside. And when I do, it's a pretty good life. And that's because of stereotypes. There is the stereotype of the nerd. And to be fair, it is true. That's why it's a stereotype. If you were to bet on a group of people having social competency and you looked at a group of software engineers versus a group of salespeople, the salespeople are going to be more competent at having social skills than the people who are in software engineering. And I think because of that, if you're the average person getting into software engineering, or you are a software engineer, then you're likely to take that insecurity with you because there's expectations of what you're meant to be like. But those expectations don't have to equal reality, right? Chances are the reasons that you have these expectations is because you were more academic than the people around you. And for some reason, at some point in culture, this became entwined with being uncool. And this is probably from the generation above. And in this video, I'm going to get into why these expectations don't set how you have to be. And if you do feel like you fit the stereotype and you want to be more outgoing, how you can start enacting that and be more secure in yourself. So to do that, we need to look at where these problems are coming from. The chances are, if you're watching this video, you're more academic than the people that you grew up around. You are less into sports, and as a result, you're probably less outgoing. Now, the third item here isn't really a root of the problem, but more of a symptom of being more academic and not being into sport. And before people start saying, oh, well, I am into sports, I love playing competitive Counter-Strike Go or chess, I'm not going to include esports or chess as a sport. Although they are competitive, there's a reason that those fit into a different category. So there's a generational difference in what is desirable. There's the TV show Mad Men, which I absolutely love, which is about ad men in the peak of their time. So between the 60s and the 70s, there was a lot of money in advertising. So outgoing and social people could make a lot of money selling confidence in certain things. And as a result, it suddenly became very desirable to go into advertising. And for each generation, the career that would be successful, or the top performing careers, have changed. And typically people's perspectives on what is desirable depends on when they grew up, what was the big thing. The same reason that the chances are if you grew up when a certain car was popular, your idea of a good car will be very different to what a modern day car is because they've changed so much. And when you're kids, most of what you get your impression from for what is desirable comes from your parents. And when your parents were growing up, chances are software engineering wasn't some big golden ticket to the dream life that they wanted. So they're going to impact on you the kind of jobs that they believe is desirable, which is entirely based on when they were growing up and what they saw around them as being successful. And being successful, for example, in sales didn't exactly correlate with being more academic and less into sports because you wanted the more outgoing people. But if you look at movies now that are coming out about jobs of interest, it's about teenagers that blew up with .NET or created social media companies. Perception of desirable jobs is shifting. I doubt if you're a software engineer that you would say to your kids that playing video games is never going to pay off and being interested in technology and being in front of the screen all the time is going to be bad for you, because the chances are it's what led you to have these passions and interests and got you the job that you're passionate about and pays well. Nerds have the desirable jobs. I'm a nerd. I grew up literally spending probably 12, 13 hours a day playing video games, and it worked out great for me, honestly. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean but I wanted to stay in that place. I wanted to move on, and I want to make the most out of this opportunity. And although you have a desirable job, you're still left with what I would say are negative caveats, because sure, these may have served you well in getting you the role that you currently have in your personal life and even in your work life. These aren't qualities that are going to go away. So how can you have the best of both worlds? How do you be the social, outgoing person while also having the desirable nerd job, so to speak? If you're a software engineer who does Agile, you probably have a stand-up every day where you join a meeting and you have to explain what you were doing yesterday, what you're doing today, and whereabouts you are with the work that's happening. In some cases, people are going to ask questions about how you're doing something and you'll explain it, and sometimes you have to defend how you're doing against how someone else would do what they're doing. The first week that you did this, and if you haven't done this before, one day you will do it, it's quite nerve-wracking because you're around people probably who are highly competent in their chosen field, and you're having to talk in front of a new group of people. It's scary. You're not going to come across confident the first time you do it. But I can tell you, after 2 years of stand-ups every morning, Monday to Friday, that I don't even think twice about it. I'm there, I'm cracking jokes, I'm having a good time, and I'm explaining what I do. The only difference is that I've done it 600 times. The chances are you're practicing coding. If you're doing a degree or you're doing software, this is something that you're actively working at, and even while you are working at it, you're learning about new tools so that you can improve and get ahead of the people around you. Well, why aren't you doing the same for socializing? The reason that you're afraid of interviews is because how many interviews have you done? How competent are you at going into an interview? Now, the problem is that, okay, I can say that confidence is competence, and, but Matt, I can only go to so many interviews, and I can only go to so many stand-ups, or I can't go to any stand-ups because I don't have a job. Well, let's take the interview as an example, because it applies to whether you have a job or you don't. At some point in your life, you probably will have to do another interview. What is actually scary about an interview? Probably primarily it's because it's a new person, and it's somebody in a position of power, so that's quite intimidating. The stakes are probably quite high, because if you don't have a job or you're looking for the new job, you're at the interview because you care. You want something that they have. So it matters how well this goes. So there's going to be pressure, right? And lastly, you need the knowledge to get through the interview, right? You need to actually have the answers. You might be worried at the moment, oh God, do I remember how to do X algorithm? Or am I competent enough in the full array of languages that they're about to ask me questions about? Well, what we've done here is we've split it up into actually 3 separate skills, which you can improve upon outside of interviews, right? You can get good at meeting new people without having to go to interviews. You can go to a bar by yourself and you can talk to people and it's going to suck, but if you do it, you're going to get better at it. The same way that the first time that you do a stand-up, it's going to suck, but if you do it every day for years, you'll get better at it. The first time that you were coding, it was so much harder than if you've been doing it for a week. Dealing with high-stakes situations. This is something that you can get good at. If you get good at doing the thing that puts you under pressure, doing something in an amount of time, this is something you can practice. Pick a deadline and try and accomplish it. Pick something difficult that you haven't done before, and this is why I'm going to go into sports in a moment. For example, one of the hardest things that I've done that was high pressure was I ran an ultramarathon, and I can tell you that every interview I've ever been to wasn't as hard as the ultramarathon I ran. It wasn't as scary, and there wasn't as much pressure, because in the ultramarathon, when I felt like I wasn't going to make it to the next base camp, if I didn't, nobody was going to come find me for an hour, 2 hours, and it was freezing cold in December, and I'd already ran 40 kilometers. And then the last one, knowledge, presumably you're already practicing that. My point is that you're not practicing the other component that will make you good at the overarching goal. And what's crazy about this is interviews here was just an example. This is interchangeable with so many other areas of your life. It's just that you're probably neglecting the side skills that accompany and also can make and break the main skill when communicating it. You can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't communicate with your team and you can't defend the reasoning behind what you're doing, then you're going to really struggle in a career where the chances are you're going to be working with people. So I'm going to steal an idea from Tim Ferriss here. If you want something immediate that you can implement now and you can just drop this video and go, the next time you go to a coffee shop and you're after dealing with a new person and also being under a lot of pressure, ask the person behind the counter for 10% off your coffee. That is going to be an incredibly uncomfortable situation. You're going to sweat. You're going to get nervous, you're going to stumble over your words because you know that what you're asking them they probably can't achieve, but you're going to ask anyway. And what you're doing there is you're getting good at being uncomfortable and doing the things that are going to pay off when it comes to the important moments in your life, like an interview, where the difference between you performing or not could change your life, whereas if the coffee person turns around and says no, you're not impacted at all. And then you have that frame of reference the next time that you go to an interview. You can think, is this going to be as awkward as that one time that I asked somebody to do something that they literally couldn't? No, because in an interview, a scenario like that's never going to come up. And if you're sat there thinking, okay, well, why would I do that? It's easier just to not practice these things. In the UK, the median salary is around 35,000. The average software engineer's salary is 50,000. For the effort that you put in, you're going to get a well above average return. You could put the same amount of effort into a job in sales or a job in medicine and get lower results. And the chances are, if you're watching this video, you're following your interests. But it's not enough just to learn coding. You need to complete the picture. Now, there are things that you can do that make these easier. One of those things is being healthy, because being healthy means that your hormones are in check. And if your hormones are in check, you're going to have high testosterone and you're going to have something literally driving you out of your room and into these situations because you know they're risky and that's what you want. So if you click my next video, I'll show you my workflow from going from complete beginner to above average in fitness. And I've tailored it for software engineers because it's what I went through. At some point, I was so untrained that I literally couldn't bench the bar, which is the lowest weight that you can do in the gym. And it ties in so perfectly with becoming more confident. So I hope this video helped. I hope the next video is relevant to you. Cheers.